All right, we're on Math 2, Unit 11, Lesson 7, looking at factoring special cases. A lot of the ones today, we'll do the basic method first, and then we'll see how they combine together. So here we go. Let's look at the first one here. I have c squared plus 2c plus 1. Again, if I kind of go back to what I did before in the previous lesson, and I look at, well, if I multiply those together, right, and this doesn't really, it's kind of silly to do this, but if I multiply those together, I get 1. My middle term is 2, so I think of what number times, one of my factors of 1 that'll combine together to add to make 2. Well, 1 times 1, if I add them up, I get 2. So, the point here is pretty simple. We can look and go, all right, I'm going to do a c plus 1, and then a c plus 1. Those are my two choices in the middle for my other terms there. And when I combine those there, what I notice is that these are exactly the same. And since they're the same, that really means that I have c plus 1 squared as my actual answer. Okay, and that happens when I have a square on both sides, a c squared and a 1 square on both sides. And if I combine, if I look at this thinking, okay, if I get rid of 2 and I have a 1c and another 1c, I get 2 in the middle, that means it's going to work perfectly. So I look at the next one here, the same idea. I have a d, which is squared, my initial term, and I have 25, which is 5 squared. All right. Now, to get the answer here, it's going to be a positive answer, which means my 5s have to either be negative negative or positive positive. But because I'm going to combine the outside and the inside terms, 5d and 5d, and end up with a negative 10d, then I'm going to make both of them negative. So I have negative 5 plus a negative 5. Okay? So if I was to look at this like the diamond method, this would be like saying, well, on the outside here I have 25, and I'm trying to get to 10. What can I multiply together? Oh, 5 and 5. I multiply to get 25, and I add together to get 10. But because I want a negative 10, I need to make this a negative and a negative. So, again though, I have d minus 5 two times, so to rewrite this, it's d minus 5 squared. All right? Okay, so here we go again. I have a p, which is going to be my leading term. 144 is 12 times 12, so I'll put that there. Because I want to have a negative 24, when I combine the middle terms, I will do a negative 12 and a negative 12, so that when I combine, I have negative 12 plus negative 12 gives me negative 24. Same terms there, so I have p minus 12, whole thing squared, just like that. Let's look at number 7. 7 is another one. We have a little bit larger numbers, but again, 25 is a squared number, and then we have m squared, and 36 is a squared number as well. So it's the same process. I'm going to break this apart and say this becomes 5m, and this becomes 5m. 36 is squared, so that becomes 6 and 6. So if I look at my sides here, I have my outside of the foil. Remember foil? This is my outside and my inside. I have the 60 right here and another 60 there. I want those to combine to make a negative 60. So I'm going to have a negative and a negative, which works because negative 6 times negative 6 is positive 36. Again, those terms match. So my final answer will be 5m minus 6 squared. All right, number 8, same idea. 4 is a squared number, so that becomes 2 and 2. 64 is squared, it becomes 8 and 8. All right, and 8 times 2 is 16, and 16 plus 16 is 32. All right, so it's going to work the same way again. So my shortcut here would be to recognize that. Well, I'm going to have a 2, q, and I'm going to subtract 8, and it's squared. All right, so I could do it twice, but I just took one of these and one of those, and I'm good to go. So in this case here, 49 becomes 7 and 7. Right? A y becomes y and y. 36 becomes a 6 and a 6. If I multiply together 7 and 6, 7 and 6 is 42. And if I do that twice, 42 plus 42 is 84, and there's my middle term. So it tells me that I'm going to have a 7 and a y, and I'm going to subtract, right? Yep, going to subtract here 6. And that's all there is to it. And I'm done with that one. Looking at number 13. So given the expression represents the area, so that's my area, find the length side of the length of a square. The area is found by doing the length times the width. So I got this by multiplying L times W, but L times W are exactly the same because it is a square, which means I'm just going to take 36W squared plus 12W plus 1 and break it apart into two pieces that match exactly. Again, 36 is squared, so that's a 6 and a 6. So I put a 6 here and a W, a 6 and a W, and 1 is a squared number, 1 and 1. And I look at my outside, 6 plus 6 makes 12, so positive there. And so what does one side equal? One side is 6W plus 1. That's what one side would be. The other one would be the same exact side, and that's why you square it and you get that answer there. Same idea for number 16 as well. 121, that's going to be 11 squared, right? And W squared is just W. And then what is 3 squared? 3 squared, sorry, 9 is 3 squared. And because I want a negative term in the middle, I'm going to make this a negative 3, and then it's squared. So, but one term, sorry, is just going to be just that. So I don't have to square it. That's what it would be if I broke apart the whole thing. So 11W minus 3. All right? Let's look on the back side here for a couple more. Some more special cases. We have B squared minus 121. All right, so in this case here, I have a square. This becomes B and B. 121 becomes 11 times 11. But I'm going to end up, if you notice here, with no middle term. So when I break this apart, I'm going to need to have a B and 11 and a B and 11. But because I don't have a middle term, it means one will be positive and one will be negative. Because I'll have a negative 11B plus 11B for 0B in the middle. They all go away. So it works out great, and that works as long as that last term there is a negative 121. On number 19, again, same idea. I'm going to break it apart. These are two squared numbers, D, and 9 times 9 gives me 81. To make the middle term go away, I have a positive and a negative. For number 20, same idea again. I have an F and an F. 625 is 25 squared. So 25 times 25. To make the middle term go away, I do a positive and a negative, and I'm done with that one right there. Number 21. You can start by going, okay, well, this is bigger. Do I know a number of times itself gets 108? My answer for me was no, but I recognize that 3 goes into that and 3 goes into that. So I'm going to factor out a 3 first of all. 108 divided by 3 is 36x squared, and 3 divided by 3 is 1. Now I have a square, a square, and a square. So this becomes 3 times 6x plus 1, 6x minus 1. So I just took 36x, made it 6x, 6x, and 1 become 1, 1, and a positive and negative. Number 22. Same idea. You just look at it, start off with it, and you go, man, I don't know, 50, what goes with that? I'm not sure. Well, they're both even numbers. So let's factor out a 2 to start with. So now I have 25n squared minus 4. So now I have a square, and a square. So when I break that apart and factor it even further, 25 is 5. There's my 5. N squared becomes n and n. 4 becomes 2 and 2. And because there's no middle term, I'm going to have a positive and a negative there, and that's how that one works. For number 25, I could do a couple things here. I might, for example, I could factor out the, I guess I could factor out the 28. That'd be the best thing to do, right? So let me take a 28 out of there, and I'm left with y squared minus 1. So I have a 28, and then I have y plus 1 and y minus 1, and I'm done with that one right there. Okay, next one, number 26, I have even, so let's factor out a 2, and I have 25t squared, and then I have plus 20t, and then I have plus 4. Alright, so now it's not going to be the same kind of squared thing. Now I have to do a little bit more work to figure this one out. So I'm back to a little bit to this way of 25 and 4. 25 times 4 is 100. And I got to find something that I multiply together that if I do it, then I can add them up and get me the middle terms. Problem is, this method won't work when I have a leading coefficient like that, like the same way. It's just more complicated, right? So like if I did my hundreds are going to be things like 25 times 4, right? And if I do 25 times 4, well, 25 and 4, I can't subtract that to make 20. It just doesn't work the same. So what I tend to do is I'll put my 2 there. I'm going to just do a little bit of guess and check. That kind of works a little better for me. I know that that's a squared number, so I'm going to go ahead and write a 5t and a 5t. That's a squared number. Because that's how we're doing it, I'm going to go ahead and start with a 2 and a 2 and just see what happens. If I look at my outsides, I get 5 times 2 is 10. Well, there's a 10. And my inside is 10, so I have my 10s there. So it actually happens to work out pretty well. I have 5t plus 2 and 5t plus 2, and I guess I'm done. That's all there is to it. Now, I can't quite see how this would work, but there's probably a way, and I'm just not looking at it right now. Don't want to talk about it. So here we go. Let's move on to number 29. So 29, same idea. We have a number here. We notice it all end in zeros. So I'm going to factor out the 10 first of all. So I'm left with 25k squared minus 20 plus 4. Now it's interesting, or 20k, sorry, is this equation is almost the same, or is the same as this expression. This expression is almost the same as that, except it has a minus 20 and a plus 20, which tells me I'm going to still have the 10, I'm going to still have a 5k and a 2, and a 5k and a 2. So last time we had 2 positives to give me a positive 10. This time I'm going to do 2 negatives to give me a negative 20. Because that's negative 10 is negative 20. And because a negative times a negative is a positive, that's going to be okay. So it works out the same. All right? So some of them are going to work out. There's special cases here because they're squared numbers. Look for things you can factor out first of all. If the diamond thing works for you, that's great. But don't get hung up on a diamond. At some point, you just have to start being able to see how will things work. All right? Great. Have a good day.